Hello, I'm Peter Bailey with the Worldwide Solution Management Group at Wilson Learning, and I'd like to say a couple of things about global awareness. The concept of global awareness actually requires a shift in both mindset and skill set. It's more than just a recognition that people think, act, and communicate differently around the world. To be globally effective means to have a deep understanding of the ramifications of the fact that people think, act, and communicate differently around the world. We interviewed a number of people from various parts of the world. We want you to observe and listen to the way they answered our questions. While it's useful to see what countries or cultures people come from, it's more important for us to be thinking in terms of the people speaking, not just their nationality. Is the speaker more tasked than me or more relational? Are they more aware and influenced by hierarchy than me or less? For us to practice global versatility, we need to first identify at which end of the dimensions people tend to be, and then how we might modify our behavior so that we are more closely aligned with them and we can make them more comfortable.
Well, when I'm meeting people for the first time, I really believe that there's a human factor at play, and for me, therefore, looking for those opportunities to mutually put each other at ease is key. Clearly, these days, people want to get quicker to the agenda than they ever used to, but still there are people behind that agenda, and up front, trying to put people at their ease, I think, is important regardless, and then continuing to find those opportunities to do it is equally important.
When I'm meeting someone for the first time for a business meeting, even before I go into the meeting, I'd like to do my homework to find out more about this person, his hobby or his or her hobby, or some commonalities we can relate to when we start the meeting, so that when I walk into the door, we already have some kind of common ground. That's what I like to do. And when I go into the meeting to meet this person, I think just the first couple of minutes, not too long, just get oriented and start with the small chat, weather, food, or travel. I think that's more comfortable for me. And I think I set a good tone for the meeting.
If I'm meeting somebody in the first time, I take a little time with them to get know each other and find a same kind of information within each other, and then go into the business conversation. That's much more comfortable for me. And even though they are very busy, but yeah, having casual conversation before business conversation is much comfortable for me.
Yeah, and if I am meeting with someone I've never met in a business environment, I would not, in a way, take it at a personal level too quickly. I mean, as French, in a way, are not supposed to do that. We are relatively more formal. We would proceed on a Mr. I mean, we would not call each other on a first name basis. Keep a relative distance, and I would try to make it a little more personal, but be very careful and see how the other person responds.
When I first meet somebody in a business setting and I have a meeting with them, I typically have a tendency to want to get straight to task. I know I need to do a bit of relating with somebody up front, but deep down inside, I really just want to get to my agenda items. Once I complete all of those, I feel like I can relax, take a breath, and really engage in some conversation.
When I'm meeting someone for the first time, I guess I'm a more informal person, that I do like to experience a sense of warmth. I also want to respect them in a way, so I try to sense where they're at and how they are. But, I love a little informal conversation before we get going.
When a senior person comes into the room, I believe that everybody's of equal value, and so I would hope that nobody, including myself, would change any behavior as a result of either a senior person or a more junior person coming in, that you want to capture the essence of everybody's contribution rather than kowtow to a more senior individual. So that would be my reaction in that sense. Yeah.
When I'm meeting with someone of my peers and a higher-ranking person comes in and interrupts the meeting, I think, first of all, I like to show my respect to the higher-ranking person and hearing what he or she has to say. Or in another case, if a lower-ranking person comes in, I will try to show the same level of respect. Not necessarily because this person is lower-ranking. I will treat this person differently. But again, higher-ranking person might have a matter that's more for urgency. So depending on the situation.
If I'm in a meeting with a group of peers and somebody who's higher ranking comes into the meeting, typically what happens is because of the culture we work in, our meeting tends to continue. We'll acknowledge their presence and make some effort to bring them up to speed and let them know what we're talking about. But then business pretty much continues as usual.
If I have a business conversation with my peer, and then somebody who is high-ranking person is coming, my conversation is a little bit changed. The atmosphere of the conversation is changed a little bit because of maybe high-ranking people. We don't know how the high-ranking people think about us, so maybe the nature of the conversation has been changed.
So if I'm presented with a new idea for the first time, I'm generally excited by that, and I would usually reinforce the idea and the fact that somebody has brought that idea to me, because I think any idea is a good idea. I would then probably move into more discovery, ask a few questions, just get a bit of comfort as to where that sits, with the strategy or the direction. But I would always embrace ideas. I think, ideas are really very important, and most ideas are good ideas. It's just a case of the context and how we would move forward with it.
It is great to meet someone who can come in with a great idea and see him run with it. However, it is not very often that you see that happening. Most of the time in Singapore, people like an idea, get excited about it, then they start thinking about consequences. What will happen if it doesn't go right? What does it take to really get the idea to move forward? Who needs to be informed? And will they have to end up doing more as a result of that? So once we think about all the consequences, you balance it up in terms of the benefits to yourself, then you move forward. So I've yet to see someone who truly gets an idea and start running with it, just like that.
In the business conversation, I prefer think a little about the planning before jumpstart the actual execution. Personally, I love innovative ideas, but in the business situation, I prefer planning before execution.
With regard to a new idea, my tendency is I run with it. I take off and my mind is just going 1,000 miles an hour. And I have learned that I need to take a moment and slow down and make sure that I work through all of the practical details in order to make sure that the solution that I've jumped to, that I can see almost immediately, is attainable, or that it's there's a pragmatic way to get there.
Yeah, and if there is a new idea coming on in my business, by any source, I would first take the idea. I'm very open to new ideas, and I like new ideas. But after that, I would take the time to think about it and consider if it's really first a good idea, and if it is something that I should put on the top of my priorities. And I would not move in a very, in a very quick way. Most probably, I would take time to think about it and structure it.
When I think about my colleagues, now that I work in Australia, things have been very different for me. Working in a business environment in the States, even in several different businesses, we're really focused on individual achievement, which is a bit different in Australia. They're not quite as focused on the individual and the individual achieving a goal or standing out. They're a bit more focused towards a team aspect and thinking about people in terms of a team and a team goal. It's been very different to be there.
Yeah, and if I look at the people with whom I work or with whom I have worked, recently, I would say that there are probably more individuals than a team, and I would say many French people try to have to fight for their own idea, and we very often have, in a way, a lot of discussions, and everyone is, trying to defend its own idea and without any, I would say, or with very few limitations. And individuals would be probably more the side on which we would tend rather than the team side.
When looking for acknowledgement, I really need personal acknowledgement. It's extremely important to me. Yes, I know that other people contribute, but if you want to stimulate me, give me direct feedback and absolute individual attention in terms of the kind of things that stimulate me, and that would be personal recognition for a contribution that I've made in my own capacity with the strengths, using my own strengths.
When I think about recognition, even if I acknowledge as an individual, I speak about my team members a lot. This accomplishment is not just from me. It's from a lot of support from my team member. A name is coming, and Kyoko and Chikako and Ritsuko, a lot of people support me, and then I can accomplish my job, my objectives.
So when I think about our team, do I think of them as a close-knit team, or do I think about them as individuals? Well, that is a good question. We are a team, but we have different personalities and different styles, so I wouldn't expect everyone to have the same opinion and same view and same outlook, otherwise we wouldn't really achieve anything. So I think it's good that we have different individuals and different personalities. The most important thing is that we're all striving to achieve the same goal.
はい、チームメンバーとか同僚との関係っていうことについてですけども、やっぱり一緒の目的に向かって何かこう困った時は助け合ってというような感じなので、なんか個々人というよりはチームで一緒になんかコラボレーションするって、そういう仲間として考える方が自然かなと思います。
when I talk to the person in face to face, what I think much of better is that I prefer to get the outcome of the verbal and other than the non-verbal. That's my way.
In Singapore, we have a saying that's very popular, and that saying is, what is not said is louder than what is said. So to be able to read the implications of what people are saying, it's almost like you need to think through what they're saying and what really do they mean, and what is it that they're not saying and they are thinking that you should know. In fact, recently I came across many people who say that managers would interview applicants for a job position. And at the interview, they'll describe the job, the responsibilities, and they talk a lot and they communicate to make sure the expectations are set. And when the person comes on board and joins the company, everything else seems to be working through, the two of them having to be psychic. That means I need to anticipate and think of what your expectations are of me. And as a manager, I expect you to know that without me telling you what is expected of you, that you know what I want and how would I would like you to work. Yeah, so I would say that very often we do not really communicate in terms of very openly and explicitly, comprehensively, what we really mean.
So when I'm speaking to somebody face to face, I'm very much listening to what's being said. I mean, obviously, body language is very important, eye contact and the likes, but really, you have to listen and you have to hear what's being said. I put a lot of emphasis on that. Body language to me in those situations is more secondary, although you need to be very aware of that.
When I'm in an interaction, having grown up in Africa, the context is very important. What is said is of much less significance than how the person behaves towards you. So I do take into account extremely conscientiously how the person is saying and in what context that the words are expressed. So the words themselves don't convey the full message. It's the body language, it's the attitude towards you that conveys the real message, and I look out for that extremely carefully from my experience of living in Africa. So.